is Chinese. So yeah, I really like both of the cities.
I see. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
I really
so
love, the characteristics, the personalities of all these as well.
okay, you think do you think
Laid back and sometimes lazy, my teacher said.
oh, you think your teachers you
My
think
teacher said lazy and laid back.
oh, you think they're lazy?
But it's not a bad meaning. And in a
Okay.
sense, how shall I say, it's a rhyme. Lazy and laid back. Same L sound.
Yeah, I think maybe don't say lazy because that's kind of negative, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. I know, but for example, in Australian slang, there are so many abbreviation forms. My teacher explained about it.
Yeah. Yeah, you can say laid back, relaxed, or easygoing, like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
easygoing, approachable.
Yeah. Okay, so now you're back in Japan.
Yeah, I'm in Japan, and here's another similarities both of us have, because recently I've been really into Indonesian culture.
Okay.
And just in these 2 months, my friends and I went to Indonesian restaurants so many times.
Okay,
And
Indonesian restaurant in Japan? Do you mean Indonesian
in
restaurant
Tokyo,
in Japan?
there are many Indonesian restaurants. So many. I think in Sydney, unless in my experience, I didn't see any Indonesian restaurants.
I think there are quite a lot in Sydney.
Yeah, there are some technically.
Yeah, because there's a lot of Indonesian people in Australia, so yeah, usually Sydney and Melbourne, they have like quite a lot of Indonesian restaurants.
And recently I made it by myself. Can you guess what this is?
That looks like soto ayam or chicken soup.
It's miraculous. You do it.
Yeah, is that correct?
Admiring.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's like one of the classic dishes here you can eat.
Yeah. This is my comfort food.
Oh, you like it? Okay.
Yeah.
You can find.
I love soup in general, and I love its how shall I say, subtlety, the mixture of lemon, chicken, fish sauce, turmeric, etc.
Yeah, but in Japan, like you have a lot of like soupy kind of meals as well, like Japanese style soups too, right? Like chicken soup or ramen or something.
Ramen is not a soup technically. And one thing that defines Southeast Asian food is fish sauce. And even though we are the same in the sense that both of us are Asians, but food culture in Indonesia is really different from ours.
Yeah, I mean Indonesian food, usually it's spicy, or they like to add like a sambal, like a sauce on the side.
Sambal, exactly.
Yeah, so like sometimes the food is spicy, like it comes spicy, but other times like it's not spicy, but you add the spice to it. So yeah.
So up until 19th century, we hadn't used spices in general. I mean, in the realm of traditional food. After that, we have been using or importing so many spices, but generally speaking, washoku, which is Japanese traditional food, it's not that spicy.
Yeah, I think I mean I haven't been to Japan yet. I've eaten Japanese food, but it's more like I haven't eaten Japanese food in Japan, so I don't know if it's like super authentic or not. But I haven't really had much spicy Japanese food. Usually it's
Mm-hmm.
like like you get wasabi, the
Mm-hmm.
wasabi paste with like sushi or something like that. That's like the only time that it's been spicy for me. But yeah.
I understand.
Okay. So Japanese people don't really like chili or spicy food?
Far from it, because I mean, I said up until 19th century, and now it's 21st century. So our food culture is extremely eclectic. So
Mm.
especially, yeah, super diverse, and we really love to eat vastly different countries' cuisines. So yeah, these days especially yeah, Vietnamese food, Thai food, Italian, French, Korea, so many, food restaurants.
So have you been to Indonesia?
Not yet, unfortunately, but one of my best friends is from Indonesia, so yeah, one day I'd love to visit.
Okay, and how did you meet them?
Thank you for asking. Even though I already graduated from the college, I still belong to, let's say, an exchange student support group. So that is where we met.
Exchange student support group in
Support
Australia.
No, in Japan.
Oh, in Japan. Okay. Right.
Because I graduated from, Tokyo's college.
Okay. I see. So,
by the way, I have one question. Recently, I read one book about Australia, and it introduces lots of universities or colleges. But one thing I felt quite different from Japan. The book was the book introduces lots of public colleges, but I didn't see any descriptions of private colleges. So can I think in Australia there aren't many private colleges?
By colleges, do you mean universities?
Universities, because in Japan so many.
Yeah, I'm not sure about like private or public universities. I think in Australia all universities are private, I think. Because
private, like Sydney Uni or Melbourne Uni.
I think they're private because you have to pay to like take the courses even as a Australian citizen. This is where I'm not really sure, because for Australians the government pays for your student loans. So like basically you take out a loan with the government. So like the government is kind of involved in some way. Like it's I guess it's publicly funded, but it's like but it's also a little bit private too, because like with international students you have to pay like a lot of money to go to Australian universities. So I'm not sure about that. I would...
One possibility is, the definition of, public or private differs from country to country. That's why.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I would need to research that because I don't know the system. Like if it's like a university, let's say Melbourne University, which is one of the most prestigious in Australia. Melbourne Uni is, I mean, just from the top of my head, I think it's private. Because like usually it's expensive, and usually expensive stuff is private. But yeah, I don't know. I would need to Google that because I don't really understand the specifics of the education system like that.
Thank you so much.
So like what about, I guess because I live in Indonesia, so I think in Indonesia they have public and private universities and it's very obvious, but I think in Australia no, but I'm not sure.
I see. I have another question. So in the textbook, there is a really, controversial question. Do you think, like, the dominance of any one culture is good for the world? And when I saw this question, I immediately associated with, American culture. In Japan, around 20 or 30 years ago, when, how shall I say, Western culture used to be really dominant. But these days, lots of youngsters have been interested in Korea or Taiwan, and it's much more diverse. And even though, so many people are craving for mastering English, it doesn't mean, people are really, dreaming of visiting America. And I also find Australian conversational phrases really interesting. Would you use these phrases? How often?
Fair dinkum. I mean, I hear it sometimes, but yeah, it's very like classic Australian slang. But like, sometimes I hear it. Sometimes it's like a joke. Like sometimes people will say, "Oh yeah, fair dinkum," but it's like not really a serious thing. But in some places, like maybe more in like the countryside, people might use it seriously, like a real phrase. So yeah, I think when I'm in the city, I don't really hear it, but if you're like out in the countryside, maybe you will. Yeah. But it's okay, like you can use it and people will understand it, and they might think it's funny if English learner uses it, because it might just be entertaining for them. I don't know.
Yeah, and one of my friends said a similar thing. In the word Australia, it's super vast, and depending on the region, how people use these kind of colloquial expressions, it depends. But it depends.
Yeah.
But one thing I am interested is when Australian people pronounce this word, unlike American people don't pronounce R sound, and I wonder if by how shall I say, this is quite different from American English, and by doing so, Australian people can, how shall I say, strengthen their relationship.
Okay, meaning what exactly?
Yeah, like friendship. So American people don't pronounce our sound, but Aussie people don't. So by doing so, they can, increase for friendship.
Do you mean friendship between American and Australian?
No. Opposite. Australia and Australia. Because both of them don't pronounce our sound.
Okay, I'm not really sure what you mean exactly, like with R sound and friendship. I'm not sure about the connection. I don't understand.
Like if one specific phrase is only shared by certain ethnicities, it might, lead to the friendship.
Okay. Yes.
The bond of the specific people.
Yeah, I mean, like people from a similar background in Australia, maybe. Yes. Yep. That's right. Yeah, I think the more, like, if you have something in common with someone, it's a lot easier to become friends with them, right?
Yeah.
Rather than someone, someone that you might not share a lot of similarities with, like it might be a bit alien to you, maybe. Yeah. But I do think it's important to, it's important to talk to people who are different from you and who, speak a different language or are from a different culture or country, just because it's interesting to see where other people come from and how other people live. So yeah, I think you can be friends even if you're not from the same place. For example, my husband is from Indonesia. So, yeah, I mean, we have completely different backgrounds and different first languages and everything, but we managed to, meet each other. So, yeah, I think that's quite interesting.
Yeah, but again, I'm not going to, how shall I say, deny the different people. Of course.
Yes.
Yeah, and for you, what is your Indonesian cuisine?
Sorry?
I mentioned soto ayam. What is your favorite Indonesian cuisine?
My favorite Indonesian cuisine? That's a good question.
Because, probably Indonesian cuisine is much more different, how shall I say, from Australian cuisine compared with Japanese culture.
Indonesian food has got a lot more flavor and it's a lot more interesting in terms of like the flavor profile, because they use, spices, chili, lime leaf, lemongrass, like all of these different herbs and spices. So there's a lot more depth rather than like Western food. Probably my favorite would be satay ayam, which is satay chicken, or rendang. Rendang is like a classic. Yeah.
Yeah, I was astonished because in my country, peanuts. It's usually 100% used for sweet things like peanut cream with bread. But
yes.
I was surprised in Indonesian food restaurant because peanut sauce is used for the savory stuff, including satay.
Yeah, but the thing with Indonesian food is that we have a word for it. It's called gurih, and it means like sweet salty. So like Indonesian food is very like sweet and salty in one. So like something like satay ayam is like the peanut sauce is a little sweet, but it's also a little salty. So it's like savory food, but it's kind of not savory food. Yeah.
So that's why I said, it's kind of, complexity or subtlety, mixing of vastly different flavors.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. And they usually with satay, they have, so they'll like barbecue the chicken and then they put the sauce on and they use palm sugar in the sauce. So that's a little sweet. And then usually they put ketchup manis, which is sweet soy sauce. So like there is sweet flavors in satay, but obviously salt as well. And peanuts. I don't know if peanuts are salty. No, peanuts are just peanuts. Yeah, but yeah, it's interesting. There's other foods like that too, but I can't really.
In my country, we spell ketchup as ketchup in katakana, Japanese language. And when we say ketchup, it always means tomato ketchup. So I was surprised because when I asked, what is ketchup manis? They explain, it's not the tomatoes.
No. So yeah, they use the same word ketchup for like. Ketchup is kind of like sauce, but if you add manis, that means sweet, so, yeah.
In Australia, is the situation same? I mean, when people mentioned ketchup, it always means tomato ketchup.
Yeah, usually, I mean, ketchup is it's more of an American word. In Australia, we don't really say ketchup. We say like tomato sauce usually. So we say like the whole word tomato sauce, or I mean, usually people just say sauce because like it's so common that you just say sauce. Yeah.
Yeah. Even for me, ketchup sounds really specific.
Yeah. Ketchup is more of like an American thing. We don't really say it in Australia. We just say tomato sauce. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, I really admire how shall I say complexities, or the layers of the flavor of Indonesian food.
Yes. It's if you can find good Indonesian food, yeah, it's delicious. I love it. It's very good. Yeah, and sometimes it's not super healthy because it's quite oily, and it's quite heavy on carbohydrates like rice and a lot of like fried food, but or something like that. So I guess it's no different from other countries.
Yeah, and by the way, one of my friends said in Indonesia, a long time ago, every family uses sambal, but these days, such a thing as ready-made sambal is being sold. And would you make it by yourself?
Probably not, just because like you can buy any kind of sambal here and it's really cheap and like good quality. Like you can find, if you want to find like something of high quality, like a kind of like a homemade sambal, you can just order it online, and yeah, I mean it's like cheap and very easily accessible. So like I don't think I would spend. I like cooking, but
I know what you mean. But my Indonesian friend said sambal is highly involved with Indonesian people's identity. So even though they are busy, ideally they make it from scratch.
Yeah, I guess it depends on your taste. Like if you want a specific flavor in your sambal, or you want to use like green chili or red chili, or you want it a bit more sweet, then yeah, I mean you can definitely make it yourself.
I like red.
But I've seen the techniques with they use, I can't remember the Indonesian word, but it's like a mortar and pestle, so they like grind it with their hand, and usually it's just like garlic, shallot, and chili and some salt and sugar. That's like the main ingredients. Maybe ginger as well, a bit of ginger. Yeah. It's quite easy to make, but you just have to get the balance right. And then they also add oil, and then usually they cook it in the fry pan. Like they cook it in oil first before they serve it. So it's not really served raw. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Have you tried to make sambal before?
No, yeah, but one website it's describing how to make handmade sambal. So yeah, I'm going to try that.
Yes. Yeah, you should. I think it's easy if you have like a food processor or something.
Yeah, grinding.
Sorry,
yeah,
I think
thank you for sharing lots of interesting information.
You're welcome. No problem.
So,
I think we've reached the time, okay?
Yeah. It was fair income enjoyable.
Great. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time, okay?
Yes, next time. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye.